You're watching Force 13's live streaming service. This is Force 13 Live. We're tracking Tropical Storm Beryl as it draws nearer to the coast of Texas. Landfall expected overnight into the early hours of the morning, probably in Matagorda County. According to Recon data, we had a drop sonde which would suggest a pressure of 985 a little bit ago, and winds in the storm from another drop sonde in the southeast side, suggesting probably winds of 70 miles per hour, which is what we're running with right now. That's how we formulated our estimate. In addition, there have been some flight level winds of 75 miles per hour in the air, and SFMRs, I think, have been pushing close to 70 miles per hour as well. So that's our current estimate right now. We'll see whether the National Hurricane Center goes with that too at their advisory. So this is unofficial, but either way it's pretty close at hand, and we are expecting further strengthening to hurricane status on its way to the coast of Texas. Well, my name is Nathan Foy here in the studio, and I'm joined by my team once again. We've got quite a few people with us right now. We have David, Maury, Sammy, and Jose. Let's first talk to David, though, because you're in the path of the storm right now, and just ahead of it, you got a chance of some significant storm force winds later tonight, you were telling us off air.
Yeah, so I've seen some. Obviously, I live in Houston, by the way. So I've seen some models. I saw some models, and there were some people talking about potentially seeing gusts of up to 70, 60 mile per hour winds. We've seen there's sustained forecasts of 35 to 40, with some models indicating 50. Everybody here, at least in my neighborhood, they've taken precautions. We've pretty much finished them. We're expecting power outages to happen here because more likely than not, we're still pretty weak from the derecho that happened a month ago or two.
Oh, jeez.
And we're expecting quite a bit of damage outside in terms of trees falling down because, again, this area is pretty weak from the events that we've seen past. But we're ready, we're prepared, and I think we should have everything in hand.
We have two planes moving into the storm right now. One of them's been there for a good while, AF301. They're making their, it must be I think it's their fifth pass into the eye on their mission. And they're both coming in from the northeast quadrant, so they're very close together. Must only be about 25 or 30 miles apart, these two planes, slightly different altitudes. NOAA 3 is the other one that's just entered the storm for the first time. It has just passed through the eye in the last couple of minutes, and looks like it may be heading, I think they'll still go southwest after that pass through the center, and we'll see what info they get. But from the earlier AF301 pass through the eye, that's what we were indicating. That's the data that we used to formulate our current intensity assessment. So Beryl intensifying once again. There is still time before it reaches the coast. Let's see if we can check in with some of the live cameras down there right now. First of all, this is South Padre Island. The storm is making its closest pass to this area right now. I reckon at this point it's about 110 miles away from the eye, this camera, and you can see there's still a few people out there, even though the conditions aren't looking so great now, but not too crazy. North Padre Island, this is one viewpoint. There was some heavy showers here earlier, and you can still see some significant cloud in the distance. I assume there's quite a lot of rain over there too. That's looking, I can't quite remember where this one was and which way it's looking, but it's not far from Corpus Christi. This is Port Aransas, if I can just get it to play. There it is. Camera's actually slightly wobbly there. And this location is about about 110 miles away from the center of the storm. And look at that, how that changed there. We were just looking at some earlier pictures before it updated, and the tide is in, and a potential little bit of storm surge on top. Rockport right now looks pretty calm there still. One or two people still out there as well, but generally cloudy now. And looking at Bayou Vista, a new camera to our fold right now. And I can't quite remember where that one is. Bayou Vista, I think that is getting towards, that's near Galveston, isn't it? I think. Yes, it's between Galveston and the southeastern suburbs of Houston, and you can see the viewpoint there. Actually quite sunny a little bit at this point. Galveston, here's the view of it right now once it loads from that fishing pier. Some significant waves crashing in right now, but still nothing too tremendous at this point. The sun's still out. And finally, a look at, or it was supposed to be, uptown Houston, but it's an ad playing instead, of course. But I can tell you earlier on it was looking pretty overcast right there, with substantial rainfall at times earlier on this afternoon. I think we've got it now. And that is the current viewpoint. Another rain shower in the western part of Houston. You getting rain, David?
From here, we're getting slight showers.
Slight showers.
Yeah, so it's not raining as hard as it did in the morning, but...
All right, then let's talk to Sam, because it's the first time we've seen you on one of our streams, I think. If not, it's your second time, but your thoughts on Beryl right now as we look at it?
Yeah, absolutely. As far as hurricane coverage, I'm just trying to shake off the rust a little bit, but I have been following Beryl very closely ever since it was back a couple of weeks ago as an invest, and now it is about to make its final landfall into Texas, where obviously hurricane warnings are in place pretty much between the Corpus Christi and Galveston metro areas, and I do have reason to believe that this could potentially make a run at a rapid intensification phase before landfall, somewhere around, I would say, between Oswell and Texas City. Is probably where I would suggest landfall is going to be. Hopefully everyone is aware of the storm surge and rain threats that are going to be the main threats practically outside along the coast and further inland. And actually, the flooding threat is actually going to be more pronounced throughout as it deteriorates over the central U.S., where actually the forecast track takes it all the way up into Michigan as a potential tropical depression, and it looks like it's going to be mainly the mid-Mississippi Valley into lower Michigan, where it's could definitely end, but it's not going to be without its rain impacts going all the way up into Arkansas, the Arklatex region, up into Missouri, and southern Illinois, central and northern Indiana, and even potentially parts of Ohio and Michigan could be getting in on the rain here from Beryl. Not to mention, we also have a heightened tornado threat near in southeastern Texas as a result of Beryl's outer rain bands. As there is a slight risk for much of eastern Texas, which is pretty much tornado driven. So that is going to be one of the other larger threats that you're going to be seeing further inland alongside flash flooding.
Now, it should turn post-tropical just after it leaves Texas into Arkansas. It won't be a tropical depression all the way up in Michigan, at least we hope not. But
it will be post-tropical. I meant post-tropical, yes.
But still, certainly accurate with the rain, because it does look like on models that it will be concentrated for quite a while, and all the way up into the lower Michigan region. We could see rainfall maximums of up to 10 inches and probably at least 6. Recon passed through NOAA 3. They got an extrapolated low of 985.5 at their last pass. They got flight level winds of 60 knots. They got SFMRs of 50 knots. So staying similar there to earlier readings, and actually maybe slightly lower than earlier readings that would have supported 70 miles per hour. That latest pass would support 65. AF301 going in again. Northeast side, they've got steady 55 knot winds in a pretty large area, I think. Actually, that's interesting. Not as large an area as it was before. Both planes going in at the same angle, both showing that the 55 knot barbs at flight level blew up massively a couple of hours ago, tripled in size, and they've actually decreased again in the latest update. Probably just how this storm is swirling around, as do those winds. But that's about to pass through the centre as well. We'll probably have 2 drop sond opportunities to see what they got at the centre, and possibly some. I don't want to say eye walk. It's not really a proper eye walk. It's getting towards being an eye walk, but the drop sonds in those strongest winds as well might tell us some more info. It is wrapping round. You can see on this latest radar imagery, it is getting closer to becoming completely closed and completely wrapping off away all of that dry air that the storm's actually struggled with. It's been the main issue that it's had during the course of today, and just that little bit of dry air has prevented this storm from rapidly intensifying sooner. However, will it hold off all night? I don't think so. I think we'll be looking at a very brief period of rapid intensification before landfall. However, models are pretty clear in what they want. They're calling for generally a mid-range, maybe high-end Category 1 hurricane. Not many models call for higher than that, apart from a notable anomaly. The HWRF, of course, who else would it be, calling for a high-end Category 2, and we're watching the pressure very closely, because on that run, they have it at 982 millibars by the top of the hour. So if Recon get anything like 982, then that would correlate with that HWRF forecast, and it would still be on track to make a high-end Cat 2 landfall if it kept going. So we really don't want to see that, but we're going to find out what we get a little bit later. I do want to point out as well, the southwest side of the storm has been, and the northwest actually, really poor. Really poor at the moment. They just went through the southwest side again. They've got maximum winds there of only 45 knots. So at the moment it is north and northeast that are definitely the strongest areas of Beryl. Got an open floor right now in our chat, so anyone got anything for us right now?
Yeah, I'm about to be hit by a strong rain band.
Oh.
Yeah, so I just got the notification that it should start raining in about 10 minutes. And I've just been looking at the band here, and it's a very deep red band.
Well, it looks like this uptown camera is being buffeted right now. This is on the west side of Houston, and very inclement conditions there of this band literally moving through in real time. You can see it. So I imagine very heavy rainfall right now. The traffic's slowed down on the interstate there, moving much slower going away from us than it is towards us. I don't know if there's some kind of issue there on the near side. But that's a viewpoint in Houston. And we'll be looking at all these cameras as the storm gets closer towards its landfall. We'll also take your comments and questions live on the air as well. Start your message with Force 13 all in text. Skeletor says, how much rain will fall from this storm in Chicago? Well, Sam, that you heard earlier, is in the Chicago area, but unfortunately he's stopped listening to us right now. He's not plugged in. But I expect that, let me just double check what the output was showing, but I think the rain will be east of you. And I expect that you will receive no more than 2 inches that could be related to the storm. I'm not even sure if it will be that much. But yeah, probably maximums of 2 inches. And could Houston get into the eye? It's not looking as likely as it did in previous days. It still cannot be completely ruled out, though. Again, this storm, as I was saying earlier today off air, that it is pretty much tracing the track right now of the hurricane of early July 1891, which is probably the best analog for this storm right now. It was a high-end Category 1, made landfall in... Which county is that? The one over from Matagorda?
Fort Bend?
I assume so. And then moved northward straight through Houston.
Huh? You're cutting out. Hold on.
That was Brazoria County. It made landfall in Brazoria County and moved right through Houston, that 1891 hurricane. You hearing me now?
Still cutting off.
I don't know what that issue is. Is there any dry air left in Beryl? I think there's still dry air that it's dealing with there on that west side, but it really looks like it's tightening up super fast right now, and improvements on the way by the looks of things, although Recon's still getting fairly moderate winds in comparison. There's been a drop sonde in the eye, and they got 988 millibars at 4 knots. So we got an indication of 985 earlier, but that sounds like it's gone up again a little bit. And AF301 taking an unusual track around the center of the storm. They came in from the northeast, and they've done a loop-the-loop, and they've gone north. Probably just to get away from that other plane. So they're now sampling the north side, and they got 50 knot SFMRs and 50 knot flight level winds so far, but they've not sampled the worst of it yet, I don't think. So we'll see what AF301 get in that north side, and whether they dropped a sonde in there. I don't know if they did yet. They did drop a sonde in the northeast eye wall at 993 millibars. That must have been close by. 50 knots on the ground. So it sounds like, compared to the earlier pass, a slight reversion of that strengthening that it did earlier. Don't want to sound too hopeful on that, but it sounded like it's just taken a little step back from where it was before, but we're going to be going with 70 miles per hour, 985 millibars for the time being. We'll see what the National Hurricane Center say. What do we make of that data, guys?
They might go with the higher pressure via NHC. I'm guessing they'll probably go with maybe closer to 988 millibars, maybe higher. Even though the system still, it's just going in and out. Like, the system is sort of strengthening, but in waves. It occasionally strengthens, but it's just not constant, because this isn't a very strong storm. Usually the stronger storms are more constant with their intensification. Well, not the stronger storms, but those in better conditions.
but what we've heard is that these conditions are really good right now. No wind shear. I guess it's just that dry air that's holding it back a bit.
Yeah, that's probably it. I mean, even one element that prohibits a hurricane from intensifying, well, knock the whole system off.
Brady says this better be the last time we have to see Beryl as a tropical cyclone. I'm quite frankly getting pretty tired of tracking this record-breaking storm. I think we get that feeling.
I agree.
Right?
Well, it's definitely a long tracking cyclone.
And I just want to mention a comment from a Cajun Patriot describing Beryl as cockeyed. I like that. And John there saying once the core is wrapped up in convection, it will explode. Well, time running out, but there is still a fair amount of time left. There was also a question on how long we'll be streaming tonight. We haven't figured it out yet. We don't know whether we're going to stay on air or whether we're going to end and then come back really early in the morning. I think it might be the latter at this rate. Let me just think. In the last 6 hours, the storm has moved. Trying to figure out what distance here. Waiting for some imagery to load to tell me. And it's been really, really, really slow. It's moved about 65 miles in the last 6 hours. So that's like 11 miles an hour. NHC was 12 on their last advisory. Distance from the projected landfall area is about 115 miles. So at that pace,
It'll probably be 12 hours.
it's about 11 hours, isn't it? So if that
Maybe
holds true, and if we don't see any signs of the storm speeding up here at the advisory, then we'll probably call it a night in inverted commas, even though it'll be the middle of the night when we come back and do the landfall coverage. But I think that's what's going to happen. We'll probably just make this a short stream, end at the hour, and then with that new NHC update, of course, and then return probably at about 3 in the morning or some silly ungodly hour, and do the run up to landfall, which sounds like it will end up being at about 5 a.m. And that was what the National Hurricane Center were predicting, so it seems like that's going to be the best bet here. We got a few more questions right now. Skeletor again says, how long has this storm been going for? Oh, it must have been about 11 or 12 days now.
Jeez, yeah. Way too long for sure.
Yep, and it's been code orange or above on Tico since probably the 29th of June. 11 days. 11 days? 9 days. And
30th first.
how big is Hurricane Beryl? Bearing in mind it's not actually a hurricane yet, but we're expecting it to. But how big is it? Well, the last advisory had the storm with tropical storm force winds extending out 115 miles. So when we were just reading out that distance from its landfall zone, well, tropical storm force winds should already technically be occurring on land, and that would be the areas that we're watching close to the landfall zone. One of the closest cameras to that right now is Port Aransas, which is what we've been looking at a few times. There it is again. I don't think I found any cameras in between. It is a relatively sparse area, which is good news. We're talking about, if it makes landfall in Matagorda County, that's a population of about 35,000. Of course, there are still people there, obviously, but it is a much preferable scenario to it, say, hitting Corpus Christi like it could have done, or hitting Houston and Galveston like it could easily have done and may still do, although it's very unlikely at this point to get a landfall that far east. So, you know, into Matagorda County, lower populations, so impacts should be more limited than what they could have been from this storm. However, still serious. We'll wait for that update from the NHC, 7 p.m. advisory. We'll expect it sometime in the next half hour. They'll probably wait a bit because the hurricane hunters, of course, are in there. Did they do an extra drop sonde? They did. The Air Force plane did a drop sonde and they got 8 knots at 988 millibars. So again, it sounds like maybe 987 at this update. Although I reckon they got 985 earlier on. So it seems like briefly pressed down to 985 and it's just increased slightly again. We're talking small numbers here though. So interesting. NOAA 3 still going through the southwestern side, still finding relatively weak winds, only about 45 knots. SFMR's 45 knots as well. It is definitely, by some way, the northeast quadrant that has the strongest winds. And I just noticed some extra data came in from the due north side, and they briefly got 55 knot winds. Only very brief though, so due north and northeast, the wind profile appears to be decreasing again, which is surprising me, considering that this storm is looking better. But the raw data from inside from the planes is suggesting just a slight tapering off in the last couple of hours compared to earlier. So I'm not sure quite what to make of that. However, the general trend is strengthening. I think we're joined by Orlando now.
Hello.
Welcome back, another live stream. Oh, let me just quickly get Northern Eye Wall. There's just been another drop sonde from the Air Force plane. They got 990 millibars, of course, in the eye wall, 55 knots at the surface. Sounds about right. So I'm not sure what the National Hurricane Center would run with here, because briefly supporting 70 mile per hour winds, but possibly not anymore. I'm a little bit confused.
Wow, okay. I mean, if it weakens, better for me and better for everybody who is in southeastern Texas or just in Texas coastline in general. Okay, interesting developments.
Well, look, I think it's going to be temporary. I think it will start strengthening again. Although, actually, when you really look at this imagery on radar, it is showing that those colors near the center, north side again, looking a little bit more ropey in those latest frames. So before it's actually gotten going, it looks like it might still be struggling a bit there on that northern side. So it is still not a foregone conclusion that this is fully wrapping up into a coherent eye wall. What I am noticing is an extra layer further out of a very concentrated little band there. Very thin, but quite heavy, just off the coast of Corpus Christi area, North Padre Island. This line of red there that's spiraling off. A curious feature, appears to be, at least on radar, stronger than what's near the center.
Is it like okay, so we're using Corpus Christi. Is it this one?
Oh, just a sec. Let me see what you're looking at. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
And some more nearby to the northeast that's arcing out from the center. So I can't tell. Well, it must be a spiral band, but it almost looks like it wraps all the way around. It might be trying to. If I didn't know better, it might be an eye wall replacement cycle. No. But still looking towards the center there, that northern side. Latest frames there, you can see it on David's screen. Looking maybe that there might be a little weakness in there.
Yeah. I mean, maybe because the radar's too far, but you can see it trying to
No,
wrap
I
up.
don't think it is too far. Because it's got the further out bands behind it. They're southeast.
I mean, convection up here is tapering off, and that's good because I mean it's not wrapping around. It's still pretty. It would be still disorganized, but uh, let's see. It looks like it's trying to wrap around, but it's still pretty weak on that southern side.
Yeah, interesting. So, not sure what exactly is going on with it right now. Always cautiously optimistic that it's pulling a surprise at the weaker end of things, but we can't really confirm that. But as of now, it is still at least 65 miles per hour, possibly 70. We'll see what the NHC do with their advisory, whether they'll still count that old reading, even though it's a couple of hours old now. I know they did an earlier time when we were monitoring the storm. Rod says, what is the rain radar picking up over central Mexico? I have no idea what's going on in central Mexico, but near the Texas border, let's see what I'm seeing here. The edges of the bands are just about encroaching into Mexico, but there's not much going on really. Matamoros getting a little bit of rain right now, possibly heavier at times, but I don't think it's too insane. Let's see if we can take another look at Houston, that camera that we were looking at that was getting a thrashing of rain. And did it ever arrive at your place, David?
Yeah, it just passed.
Right.
I'm in the eastern side, just north of Baytown. So yeah, it just passed by us. We got decent. I could hear the rain decently fall. So it rained pretty hard for a bit. It's starting to pass by.
All right.
But I think we have another thing coming at us just over on these sides here.
There's the live camera from Uptown, which is on the western side of Houston. Mike says, what area do you think will get the worst impacts from Beryl? Well, obviously, it's going to be where it makes landfall. At the moment, like I said, it's going to be near Matagorda by the looks of things, and the county which encapsulates it, and into Bay City, probably the largest population that will get hurricane force winds. Although things could still change here. Omar says, can 12 inches of rain fall in Houston?
I've seen some people say it could be a foot. To be honest, more likely than not, we could be seeing anywhere from 4 to 6, with some isolated amounts of up to 8 to 10. But in general, the general outlook would be 4 to 8 inches of rain. The biggest threat will be the rain, obviously, but we're going to be getting the dirtier side of things. So that also means that we could fall into the potential for a tornado threat. Quick spin-up tornadoes would be a big threat, especially on this eastern side, because it makes landfall over here, but this side is going to be under the brink for the tornadoes.
Yeah, I've been seeing that, and a few little small showers that have been moving along the coast of western Louisiana into eastern Texas earlier. You know, if we're going to see tornadoes, it's going to be out of some of those at the moment, but not too much going on right now.
Well, that also adds to the point that there was yesterday there was a stalling front right over Houston, and it produced some rain showers here.
Yeah,
so that's already adding. That's already adding more problems because this area is already saturated from the rain yesterday.
Yeah, it looks pretty intense on the satellite imagery. It was really blowing up, and some good radar returns as well. Let's have a Hurricane Altony Bronze says any lightning detection in Hurricane Beryl right now. Do you have lightning on there?
No, I don't think I have it.
Uh-uh.
No, I don't.
Well, we'll be able to find it out from some other sources shortly.
Let me open GRT. I'll probably get it on there.
What is the potential destruction scale for this system? It's a very broad question. Of course, with hurricane force winds, obviously, they can cause substantial damage. Loose objects can often become dangerous projectiles. Windows smashed in. Roofs torn as well.
You're looking at about EF2, potentially EF3 equivalent wind speed, tornado equivalent wind speeds, depending on the gusts, because you can get higher gusts than what the center of the storm has sustained.
Although
Yeah, I have it pulled up.
Hurricanes, of course, have much more straight line winds than tornadoes do. Go ahead.
I have it pulled up. There's not much lighting going on inside the center. The only lighting I can really see is just on the northeastern side. And this there's only really been
Where?
2 up
Oh, that
here.
little
So you see
dot.
where these? Yeah,
Wow.
there's
hardly
only
any
really
lightning.
been 2. Hardly.
Wow. Well, lightning is one sign of a storm strengthening. We don't have that at the minute. But interesting to see what the core is doing right now. It certainly looks like it is wrapping around. I think it may be a sign of things to come. But at the moment, still, if it is strengthening, it's only slow. And it is still not at hurricane status yet. We're now joined by Cesar, who is here as well. The storm ended up missing you over there in Nuevo Leon, Mexico. Your thoughts on Beryl tonight?
Yeah, good afternoon, Nathan and everyone. Here in my location, I just had high level clouds from Beryl. Nothing really about raining and storm and anything related to that as was expected previously. And I'm pleased that Beryl hasn't intensified that much as previously expected
Yet.
in the past few days. Yet, but it's about to make landfall possibly in the next 6 hours or less, possibly.
No, it's still going to be more.
Oh, it's moving
Modeling
slower.
is suggesting pretty good confidence here that it's going to be around 9 a.m. Central Time.
That late?
Yes.
Wow, I thought it was going to be earlier than that. Well, unfortunately, if that time of landfall it's going to be, Beryl has quite good chance to become a significant hurricane, possibly a Cat 1 at least. It's looking good, and the conditions are great. There's no wind shear. The sea surface temperature is over 30 degrees. Humidity is not that bad. It's not high, but it's also not that low. There's no dry air at all.
Intensities on the
Hopefully-
models did take an uptrend. GFS calling for a brief Cat 1 peak at 75 miles per hour, but you've got the HWRF, which didn't uptrend actually because it was already at 110 miles per hour at the last update, but on the new model run it's now 105 if that makes you feel any better, but still a mid-range category 2. You could call that possibly a worst case scenario at this point. Although the HRRR model are calling for a 980 millibar peak, so there's a GFS actually. And again, that would be a borderline hurricane, I would assume, at this point.
But
yeah.
I mean, it's quite amazing how even the models are quite disagree about the intensity of the system, even that it's not far from landfall. So anything could happen still.
Yay.
Yay!
A random yay involved there.
Not yay, but
Mm.
I mean That's interesting to see, and also with the potential tornado threat as well, since
Uh-huh.
it's plain terrain. So there's always, I think that's a major threat, to be honest, the sudden tornadoes activity that could occur.
We don't like that. Let's get a view from North Padre Island right now because it's looking quite interesting. A significant contrast of colour right there as the clouds move over this region. We'll look at this for a sec. For a little while whilst we take some more questions. Does it look like Beryl is still going more north? I can tell you the 6-hour vector has been, I think, more... It's been quite northwest, actually, the 6-hour distance vector. Just probably about... Trying to figure this out. Probably about 320, 325 degrees bearing. But it has been jogging at times, and I reckon... No, looking at it, it still looks like Matagorda County is going to get the landfall at this rate. Skeletor says, if the National Hurricane Center makes this a hurricane right now, I would hardly be surprised. No evidence of it yet.
I would be surprised if they did that because
Yeah, I
there's
would.
not
No evidence of it yet.
there's not many lightning strikes that are being like. There's been 3 in the last 20 minutes, and then this is all from the band, from the outer eye wall, not the inner eye wall. But there's a little bit here. Let me try to pull up the Corpus radar. But there's some there's I guess a little band part of the inner eye wall that's beginning to, I guess, convect a little bit.
Yeah, it's a tiny feature at a short range of time there. We'll have to monitor that. This is all pointing towards either a 65 or 70 mile per hour advisory, and I don't think we'll have another recon pass before the hour mark in which they'll do their update. AF 301 is way off north. They're just off the coast of Texas near Matagorda right now, and NOAA 3 are way out on the south periphery of the storm, and they're both gonna, well, at least one of them is gonna line up for another pass. I don't know if AF 301 might be finishing soon. They've already done 5 passes in the storm, and it turned more north at the last pass of theirs, but the NOAA 3 has only done 1 pass so far, so we should get a few more from them. So we'll wait and see for more info from Recon, but I don't think it will arrive before the next advisory. So they may be already preparing to push out that update. If you've not kept up with the current warnings, though, we'll read those out right now. A storm surge warning for the north entrance of the Padre Island National Seashore to Sabine Pass, including Corpus Christi Bay, Matagorda Bay, and Galveston Bay. Hurricane warning for the Texas coast from Baffin Bay northward to San Luis Pass. Hurricane watch for the Texas coast north of San Luis Pass to Galveston Island. Tropical storm warning for the Texas coast south of Baffin Bay to the mouth of the Rio Grande, and north of San Luis Pass to Sabine Pass. In terms of the storm surge, they are now expecting between 4 and 7 feet of storm surge between Port O'Connor and San Luis Pass, and for Matagorda Bay. From San Luis Pass to High Island, 4 to 6 feet. Galveston Bay, 4 to 6 feet. Mesquite Bay to Port O'Connor, 3 to 5 feet. And High Island to Sabine Pass, 3 to 5 feet. So that's what we're expecting in terms of storm surge. David, if you don't already know, please find out for us, if you can, about high tides in these areas. What are we expecting? Do we know?
I think, hold on, I'll have to research that, but I believe high tide starts at...
We can come back to you if you want.
Yes, please.
All right. Jose, you've been sitting quietly there as well. What's your take on Beryl as we wait for this advisory?
Well, I mean, pretty much I was here tracking it the entire time. But at this point, I'm getting tired of it. Like, but yeah, like we're almost done with it. But still, even though it goes over land, it's gonna do damage, which is the only way to like kill the storm.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, it's starting to get very organized. Like on satellite, even on radar, it looks good, but there's still like some like small openings around the eye. But I feel like it will close off of it, and it might get stronger.
So a little bit of good news
in the next hour or two as we watch this imagery, just northeastern side, filling up a little bit more with yellows. Go ahead.
A little bit of good news. So at least in Galveston Bay, so low tide actually starts at 11:12 p.m. and high tide will begin at around 7:33 a.m. at its max.
I don't think that's good news.
Wait, when does it make landfall?
About 5 a.m. at this rate.
Oh shoot!
So 2 hours before high tide.
And they'll still be on short flow after that.
I didn't quite hear that, but AF301, as I expected, I think they've finished. So they're exiting the storm for good now, and it's just NOAA 3 that are in the storm, riding along the south periphery after it made its first pass, and we wait for more data from them. And the updates out, they have gone with 70 miles per hour and 987 millibars. The hurricane warning south of Port Aransas has been changed to a tropical storm warning. The storm surge warning south of Port Aransas, including Corpus Christi Bay, has been discontinued. And the tropical storm warning south of Port Mansfield has been discontinued. So a retraction of warnings at this update, but it is still strengthening. 70 mile per hour winds, 987 millibars because of that earlier recon data. Quite a bit earlier though, I have to say. And the latest passes did suggest that it may have weakened again slightly. But either way, it's still somewhere around there. 70 miles per hour with higher gusts, strengthening expected. Forecast to become a hurricane again tonight. And expected to strengthen further before reaching the coast on early Monday. NOAA Boy 42019 recently reported a sustained wind of 33 miles per hour and a gust of 42. So the update, 70 miles per hour, 987 from the National Hurricane Center. There it is. They were never going to call it a hurricane at that advisory. There was just that the evidence was not there. A comment: what's the current eye temperature and what's the hottest it will get? I have no idea to either of those questions at the minute. I'm just let me just try and get some data, satellite data. I mean, I'm looking at satellite. Oh, satellite stopped updating on this source, so I can't actually tell you what the eye temperature would be.
I can try to.
I can guesstimate by changing this imagery. Let's switch to...
Ooh, hold on. There might be a little bit of an eye opening up.
Okay, so
on infrared.
I'm seeing that little bit there. So that's probably about minus 20 degrees, roughly. And how warm could it get? I have no idea.
I mean, if this storm even has a chance to strengthen even more, it only has a little bit of time left before it even reaches on shore. So,
is there a rough time frame that Beryl will make landfall? Well, what we've been talking about is, at the moment, it is looking like it will be near 5 a.m. And for that reason, we will be finishing this live event shortly to get just a little bit of sleep ahead of the landfall. I expect that we will probably go live at about 3 a.m. if anyone is still up at that time, as we cover the landfall of the storm. I'll be sincerely disappointed if the storm decides it's going to speed right up whilst we're recuperating and makes landfall before we get there. But we'll do whatever we're doing. Whether it's made landfall or not by 3 a.m., it shouldn't have. But even if it has, we'll go live and we'll just chat about it. But I expect that when we get here at 3 a.m., we'll be looking at a storm that's on its final push to landfall. Don't know how strong it will be. Probably probably 75 miles per hour by that point, maybe. And we'll take up that final run up to landfall. But for the next 10 minutes, we'll take some more comments and questions and chat with the team. And then we will throw it over back to our automated feed, which is running right now as well. The Hurricane Lee says, will Beryl go to Canada? Sort of, in a way, but not really.
Well, as an extratropical cyclone.
And hardly by that point. It'll have winds of about 20 miles per hour. 25. And what's the strongest that this could realistically get? Well, it's not 982 at the advisory, which is good news, because that means that last HWRF model run is not realistic anymore. Although there was a new HWRF run, so I'm just going to compare it with that now. And by this point, that run had it, still at 982. So yes, it should definitely not get as strong as what the HWRF is predicting. And based on the data that we've got right now, our realistic maximum wind is probably going to be about 100 miles an hour.
I think that's a good estimate.
Yep, that's the highest possible reasonable expectation. But at the low end, it could still stay at 70 miles per hour. But the most realistic forecast, I would say, is probably 75 to 80 at this point.
And I do just want to say, because I don't know how many people are watching from the coasts of Texas and Louisiana, but I just do want to say that if preparations should already be completed. But I do want to say is that if you are anywhere in the coastlines, please follow what the NWS says, the NHC says, what your local government officials say. If you do want to know your evacuation zones, just go to the Texas Department of Emergency Management or the Texas Division of Emergency Management. At least if you're in Texas, and if you're in Louisiana, which I don't really think you'd need it, but it's the Louisiana Division of Emergency Department. Just search that up. You'll get to the website. And you'll know all your evacuation routes and plans and all that stuff. Storm, even if it intensifies to 85 miles per hour, 90 miles per hour, it can still be really bad. The main threats are going to be obviously the winds, short term, but long term, the tornado threat exists. The the rain threat exists, especially if you are on the dirty side. And for a lot of us who are watching, a lot of Houstonians who are watching, especially Houstonians and anybody between Houston and Louisiana and central Louisiana, you are on the dirty side, so you can be seeing some pretty big rainfall totals. Please, if you fall under a flash flood warning, do what it tells you to. Get to higher ground. You can take some questions.
Well, I just wanted to, you were talking about some other places under warnings there, not necessarily in the hurricane warning zone, and I do have a few right now to read out. A flood warning's been in effect since this morning for the Sabine River near Deweyville in Texas and Louisiana, on the border there, I assume. Minor flooding forecast. There is a coastal flood warning that remains in effect until 7 p.m. tomorrow for significant coastal flooding in West Cameron and East Cameron parishes in Louisiana. Numerous roads may be closed, low-lying property including homes, businesses, and some critical infrastructure will be inundated. Some shoreline erosion will occur. Water rise of up to 3 feet may occur, all due to that storm surge. And flood warning I already read that one out, so it's just a couple of actual warnings there, but interesting to see a coastal flood warning there in Louisiana outside of the storm surge warning, when it sounded like it would have fit the definition of a storm surge warning, in fact, but in fact it is just a coastal flood warning. Not sure what the difference actually is on that, but sounds like the same thing. This is Tropical Storm Beryl. How much longer will it be a tropical storm, though? Because it is now officially 70 miles per hour and an estimated pressure of 987. Earlier, there was a reading that suggested 985. And that 70 mile per hour reading was probably about 2 hours ago now, what supported 70 miles per hour. And in fact, more recent suggestions have been that it just tapered off a little bit again, but really not much difference between the two, and still a strong storm, borderline hurricane. Looks it on satellite imagery as we start to see that upper level possible eye starting to appear, and as we switch it back to the true color imagery, the latest images just before nightfall or sunset from this viewpoint on satellite. And we put on the radar overlay. Now what's going on with that overlay, I'm not sure. It looks like it's having a little bit of a wobbler right now, and I really hope it's not gonna stall and do silly things. Can we not?
I don't know if wobbling means that, but I don't know. We'll see.
Well,
Very
look at
unlikely.
it right now. I mean, it possibly is just stalled a little bit and wobbled east.
That's the worst thing. That's the worst words I can even hear of every time. If I just hear stall, it's just
in the last frames, doesn't looks like it's shifting more to the northeast, or is my imagination?
It is
Here,
always
wait,
hard
let
to
me-
tell. It is always hard to tell, although Recon will be able to tell us with their next center fix, but we won't be here for that. But they are still en route around the southeast side right now. They'll probably go for a southeast to northwest pass fairly soon. But we are, time management here. We're gonna break away for a few hours and then be back bright and early. We're expecting to start full landfall coverage at 3 a.m. Central Daylight Time for anyone who's mad enough to be around at that time. So we'll probably be running coverage then. I highly doubt it's going to be supercharged with energy, I gotta tell you. But I think that's what our schedule is going to be. If we plan any different, then you'll hear about it on social media and on our automated stream, which is running side by side with our live streams all the time during Beryl. And you'll be redirected there as soon as we wrap this up in a few minutes. So let's just anything else that anyone from the team would like to mention right now?
Just don't underestimate the storm, please. Even if it is a smaller storm, it relatively compared to other hurricanes throughout history, this is still a powerful storm and will still cause impacts to all of the people that are in the direct path, and not even in the direct path, outside of the direct path too. This will be a strong storm and definitely have some impacts and may cause local power outages. So be aware that this system still has the capability to cause some damage, even if it just remains a Category 1 or tropical storm.
sorry to interrupt.
It's okay.
I'm just going through Twitter right now, and I'm just seeing lots of videos of neighborhoods being flooded right now at this point.
Already?
Already?
It looks small, but it doesn't look big like a big flood. But it does look like some areas are
Very
flooding.
descriptive.
There's one picture showing water near almost almost covering the whole tires of a little car.
But where?
I'm trying. This is in Houston.
Houston.
I'm
It
just
depends
going
where in
to-
Houston. If it's Pasadena or Deer Park or what is it? Just north of Uptown, then that probably makes sense. It probably makes sense. They always flood very constantly there.
And they
Yeah,
have
I
a
just
big
do wanna
rain
say-
down.
Just want to say closing thoughts. If you are anywhere in the coastline like me, or in the Texas coastline, anybody like me, just please stay safe and take care of yourselves. The storm, even if it intensifies 10 or 15 miles per hour more, it's still gonna be pretty dangerous, especially if you're on the coastline. Storm surge, rainfall, tornado threat still there. Please pay attention and please stay safe and take care.
I hope my memory's okay, because I'm trying to remember 3 questions that are on the other screen that aren't there now. One of them was, will it get to Category 2 or something along those lines? It certainly still could. Another one was, how high will the surge get in Galveston? Possibly 7 feet. That's what's indicated. And A Moment of Lovely earlier also asked, when will National Hurricane Center do hourly advisories if they do? I think they will start if it becomes a hurricane. I think they'll do them then. But for now, we're finishing up here. Thanks to the team once again. We will probably be live at about 3 a.m. Central Daylight Time. Overnight coverage. We're holding out for then before we do our proper landfall coverage. If there's any changes, you'll see it on social media, so make sure you're hooked in with all those and subscribe to our channel for more updates. We'll see you again soon. For now, good night. Beryl could be on its way to hurricane status.